Yo.
Hello.
Wow. What are you drinking?
What's the tea you recommended? Yerba mate?
Yeah, that's yummy, isn't it?
It's so good. And it's cold here today, so I came prepared.
Oh, perfect. It's not cold here today, but it's not hot. We have had a scorcher, boy, the past 4 days or so. But it's,
That's the kind of weather.
Yeah, it's a lot nicer today.
I like that sort of calm weather too, though, where it's sunny but not overbearing. Yeah. Nice veranda weather.
That's how we are. If it's too hot, it's not fun. If it's too wet, It's not fun. Just right. Yeah.
Like that sweet 70s, there's a little breeze. Perfect.
So where would you like to explore, dance, share, chat? I'm infinitely curious.
About what?
It's funny.
Because of course I've played this, I've gone to the end. I've experienced that we've had an enjoyable time, and it already began that way. But yes. I didn't play with the middle, so I'm game. We can chat, whatever. I'm open. And I listened to some of your podcast episodes because I'm one of your devoted fans. Before we began, and I also happened to something told me to listen to the lecture on the nature of God. So yeah, it's really cool. I like how I just kind of get led to do things now. It's not even about, I have to do this, I have to rush, it's just like, I'm going to have a great day. And I did have a little hiccup earlier, but it took care of itself because I saw that before I got out of bed. So yeah.
I really like in Jumping Mouse and Triple D, I love the whole thing of the eagle, because the eagle really, whenever you stretch, you're carried by those invisible winds, those invisible currents, and it really is. It's not just a metaphor. It really is. Whenever you decide, I'm stretching, when you take you are, you just stretch to your and then it's like you said. I'm curious about the lecture you listened to, because there's 400 plus. And it's I have no idea what's in most of them. I've probably listened to most of them or read most of them, but when somebody sends me an email saying, hey, I just listened to this, I 9 times out of 10 don't have a clue, because it's that's a lot of lectures. So what did you find? How did it give to you? I'm curious.
So it came to me through someone YouTube algorithm suggested this channel. I'm like, all right, let's see what it's about, just out of curiosity. And this person was addressing this particular lecture, but she only took a snippet out of it. And the snippet caught my attention. And it was talking about basically, once you realize that there is no separation between you and your desires, the bridge really is faith. And to surmise, I was like, well, all right, that's the snippet, but let's see what the actual lecture is about. So I went back, got the lecture, and I looked it up, and it took me to your site. And I have this app called Speechify, so it kind of helps, where you can put in links, and it'll read it to you in a kind of robotic voice, but whatever. So while I was getting ready and listening and just, putting around, I was listening to the lecture, and I was talking about how Saul and Paul are states. And it talks about how Saul didn't become converted to Christianity or Judaism. He said, when I experienced my awareness, it wasn't through flesh and blood. And it had me thinking, wow, it's true. It is about faith. It is about just believe it. And it had me thinking about how I used to resist that word. I literally hated that word because my family is very much religious to the point of zealous. And so my mom and I would always have these like back and forth debates about religion. Well, you just need to trust, you need to faith, pray, you need to ask God. And I'm like, my comeback was always, faith without works is dead. So that was my justification for always having to be like the worker mice in Jumpin' Mouse and pretend and work and ignore and push it. It's funny because I realized that I've been consciously manifesting all along, like we all are, but the way that I was doing it was through force, was through separation, was through victimhood. Like I'm like, this is what I'm doing and I'm doing it. And of course I had my, why is this happening, blah, 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 but I got right back onto, the metaphorical horse. Like this is happening no matter what, and nose to the grindstone, probably creating my own obstacles, but still accomplishing things in the end. But since discovering you, and I'll be honest, you are not, I came across yours, like I think Galaxy mentioned that you're everywhere, it's hard to escape you.
Yep.
I discovered you before through YouTube, and I'm like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. I don't know what he's talking about. And so when you mentioned people talking about you being hard to understand now, I giggle because I used to be one of those people.
Yeah, I got it.
So it's like, yeah, that's hilarious. And then I got to see how everything happened. Met you through Facebook, started to follow you, started to interact on live, and started to talk to people, make friends in the group, and realize that, there's no other cause. Like, there's no excuse. There's no reason. And as someone who didn't really believe in reasons or like accepted reasons and excuses, it was funny to realize that I was still doing it in like my own way, in a different ways. So the situation this morning, you're a dog dad, I'm a dog mom. You and Victoria are dog parents, I'm a dog mom. I realized I was telling the story of it's winter time. He has, all these issues when it comes to going outside when it's cold. He loves the snow. He's a Yorkie. He's a terrier like Emmett, but he thinks that he's like Bruce's size. So when snow comes along, he's like a rabbit and you have to corral him inside. But it's been bitterly cold up north and just no real snow. We had like a dusting a couple days ago and it went away. So I was telling the story about him and his habits, like, he's not going to eat because he doesn't want to go outside and blah, blah, blah. And I found myself feeling annoyed, like, why is this happening? Why can't he just go outside and do his business and come inside, it's cold, blah, blah, blah. So I woke up today and I'm like, I'm telling this story. I'm creating this.
Nice.
This is all happening because of my thoughts. And I was like, okay, so I noticed that. What do I actually want? And I've been playing around with people's different states in the group. So I appreciate everybody's group share. I always find some nugget, and I can thank you for drilling that into me because I always assume I'm going to get something no matter what. I'm going to learn, I'm going to experience, I'm going to have a win no matter what. So I felt into enjoying what my day would be like if he ate all of his food without issue, because he was even doing that. He was barely drinking water. He was barely eating. Not that he's sick or anything. You give him a treat and it's like gone in 2 seconds. But his actual food and his water, he's being a little bit finicky about. So I decided I would enjoy seeing an empty bowl and being like, I knew it, and feeling that I knew you would eat all your food, you little jerk, but in a playful, loving way. And I went outside with him, and that was another aspect of it. I would enjoy him being quick about his business and, us going for a little walk. And instead of letting that well of frustration build up almost preternaturally, I just stood there and I ignored him. I'm like, look at the sky, da da da. And I just ignored him. And I'm watching him, but I'm not paying attention to him because he was picking up his cues from me. And so he saw that I wasn't paying attention, and he decided he's going to go do his business. He did his business. I'm like, hey, good boy. And off we went. I'm like, all right, done. And I revised, too. Like, this has always been the way. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm expecting it to happen again tomorrow. I instantly revised. Oh, yeah, he did that. He's always been doing that. No problem. Like, it's silly things, like, because I just cannot walk to the trash can and put it in. I have to free throw it in. So if I miss, I'm like, nope, I got it in, and then I sink it again. So like just silly things like that. But what stuck with me with Triple D Manifestor Mastery course, I'm on day 3. I started again.
Nice.
Having fun. It wasn't about for me, or what I had made it about previously was, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. I won't believe it until I see it, until I blah, blah, blah. And it's like all of the obstacles and limitations that we talked about in the One Greater Than John, that we talked about in the first couple weeks of Manifest and Mastery. It's like, why not have fun? Like, why? Why be boring? I actually used to take pride in being serious and being a warrior and all these, like, stupid labels that probably was taking years off of my life. Instead of just having fun and singing and dancing and doing the things that I used to get in trouble for growing up. Oh, you're supposed to be seen and not heard. So, I don't embody that anymore. Why? Why would I want to? I know, I just prattled on, so your turn.
This is gorgeous. And we've got this Triple D graduate thing that we do once in a while called the club. And one year, the whole club was based on faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. And you can watch, like, from that November to January, how that just oozed into the group, and it's everywhere now. Faith is loyalty to that unseen reality. And it has nothing to do with anything else. And that unseen reality, that's it. Yeah, I remember back in Catholic school, the nuns would be doing something, right? Math or history or something freaking boring. And then somebody would start to giggle, right? And occasionally it was me. And they'd be like, you finding something funny? No, ma'am. Why are you laughing then? I just thought of something, right? So there was this invisible reality, quote unquote, in my head that I found something enjoyable about. And you couldn't have anything enjoyable in Catholic school. It just wasn't the way it went, right? So it's like, oh my God, fun is, why we call the show Feel It Real fun. It's because Feel It Real, without the fun, there's no point.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
It's true. It's true. And one of your podcasts that I was listening to, one of the episodes was talking about diving deeper. And you actually went into detail about what that means for you and how you explored it. And something just clicked for me, and I was like, and again, noticing that I was telling the story, and I mentioned it to you previously on the last call for Triple D about imagining and seeing and using that as a reason to not feel it real and claim that, oh, well, because I didn't actually see it, it didn't happen. I was like, what? Why? And so when you went into what diving deeper meant, like adding tones of reality, exploring more, okay, so you got bumped, no big deal. I've gone through and bookmarked so many podcast episodes, it's crazy. But the inner conversation one struck gold, like extreme gold, like oil gold, because of how you were saying, like, how do you hear things? And I actually experienced that in a conversation with someone. And I don't remember the gist of the conversation, but I remember seeing exactly how meaning is added. Like, I didn't say anything. And what she added in was like, how the hell? Did you hurt your hip making that leap? That was insane. Like, where did you get the square root of 256 from me saying 2 plus 2? You know, and I was like, I don't know where that came from. I'm sure it's a simple solution. And I left it at that. You know, am I rushing to find that simple solution? No, because it'll come when it comes. I know, and I've been exploring that from my end, what I want to experience, what I want to enjoy. Because we humans don't think about, we don't think about what it means to actually have, like you explored that too. You talked about how people want what they want and they think that that's the end, but guess what? Your life's going to keep on going. So how are you thinking about incorporating these desires into your already existing reality? And now I cringe when people talk about the different realities and all this other nonsense. I have a burn bag when it gets warmer. I have some pages from some journaling and scripting and all this nonsense that I used to do, and I'm like, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
But at the same time...
And we've all been there.
I know. But as someone that... It's funny, too, because I appreciate how you break it down in a way that you can understand. It's not do this and you'll experience something because I experienced something. You actually take the time to weave in a fun way, in an exciting way, in an interesting way, in a thought-provoking way to get the gold from it. You know, so it's not just write something out for 55 days and I guarantee you that this will work. Try it out. You know, like, who hasn't? I said to someone, can you experience a lemon just by experiencing it without having a physical lemon in your experience? Or for me, you know.
Can you experience that lemon with writing out the word lemon 5 times a day for 55 days? You know, like, right.
Lemon isn't going to... Right. Or can you imagine how many times have I gone on a walk in the forest and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's a snake and it's a stick. That's your imagination.
Yep.
You know? So being able to kind of mellow out, understand, calm down, and realize, instead of what I think too is where people miss the mark, is just adding stuff on top of stuff. You know, it's not the different techniques or, you know, trying this or run around and getting information from this coach and that coach who all basically come back to Neville. But it's about realizing that you are doing it. It's not the projector that's given the images. It's you that's putting in the pictures of the projector. But everyone wants to gravitate towards the pictures as opposed to changing the picture in the projector, if that makes sense.
We call that radiance. And it's so funny because when I notice how you are radiant, I know everything about you. When you notice how radiant, you know everything about me. And it's so simple. So we get to notice, how am I being radiant today? Mm-hmm. When you walk the street and you love you, men, women, puppies, cats, frogs, they all go, damn. If you get on the street and you go, I hate me, and you're radiating heat versus radiating love, it's like, ugh. You know, young, old, women, men, dogs, cats, and frogs, they're all run. Gotta love it.
And it's fun. It's like, oh, what's today going to bring? It's like, oh, what's today going to bring? Ooh, what can I enjoy today? You know, it's play. It honestly is play. And I get to experience when I started, like I told you in some emails from Manifest Mastery, I was feeling this overwhelming love towards my puppy. You know, when it's like, oh, I just want to snuggle you. Oh, you smell that? It's okay. I just love you. You know, it was fun. It's still fun. You know, we're human. We're going to have, I'm obviously not saying any of this to make it seem as though I don't have anything, negative, quote unquote, experiences, but how do I look at it differently? I dropped something heavy on my toe, and for the first 30 seconds, I probably swore so loud and so long, my dearly departed grandmother sat up in her grave. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Yes, this hurts like a ooh, but it's already gone. I don't even feel this pain anymore. It's already gone. It's already gone. It's already gone. Wow, that sucked. I remember when, I stubbed my toe and I swore. And it started to gradually decline. It was still noticeable, but I didn't give it any attention. I wouldn't baby it like I used to. I stopped having migraines since I started paying attention and actively doing, what you described. I used to be on medications. I used to talk about my migraines as it was a buddy that was next to me all the time. Oh yeah, I used to have this and that and that. That was now looking back, it's like, why was that something that I was kind of proud of? And I've even gone back and revised certain aspects, of the month for me. Like, oh, that used to happen, but this is how it is now. And I'm embodying that and living that and enjoying it as opposed to complaining. And it all really started when I read the 21 no complaint challenge. It was like 21 days, a no complaint world. That's what the book was called.
Yeah. What's his name?
Yeah. And I did that. I used to do the crazy bracelet. I made my own little bracelet and I was doing the switching. And it was just like, why? Why do I want to complain? I don't even like small talk. Never did. And now I don't engage. It's like, well, tell me something about you. What do you enjoy? What makes you smile? How's that? Or remembering something about someone as opposed to the weather or, something inane and unimportant. I want to know people.
I notice when you're sharing this, that Neville uses the term indifferent.
Yeah.
And I notice you nail indifferent with the way your body moves and the way your eyes move. And it's such a powerful tool because it's like, when you realize I can give this life, I can complain about it, I can think about it, or I can become indifferent to it.
Mm-hmm.
A 20-minute inconvenience is a 20-minute inconvenience. But dwelling on it for 4 years is 4 years. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can become indifferent to it. It's like, all right.
It happened. It sucked. It's over. Done. Let's move on.
Yeah. You can revise if you want to. I get the question, do I have to revise? You don't have to. I'd suggest, why not? It only takes a second. But at this time, the big thing is, if you're revising before you're indifferent, then you're just reacting, probably. You're trying to counterpunch versus...
And that was your experience, yeah.
Oh, yeah. How cool was that?
Yeah. Because that was something I'm like, I don't... Making a story about it, telling a story, keeping the separation of revision and myself alive. And I'm like, well, what's it going to hurt to... And that's what I don't get. No one is telling you to go out and do anything. This is all internal for people. So I guess I feel curious as to why there's resistance to trying any of it. It takes 5 minutes. I noticed I was doing it washing dishes the other day. I'm like enjoying something in my mind while I'm washing the dishes, which has also been fun to play with. Because again, that was a story where I can only imagine with my eyes closed in my bed with my nice warm blanket.
Yeah, sure. So if you're doing the dishes and that were true, you couldn't imagine going to bed to go imagine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love exploring where it gets ridiculous, because where it gets ridiculous is where you get, going back to earlier, that's where fun shows up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I got in the group the other day, somebody goes off on me on affirmations and scripting. It's like, well, people say they work. Did you have to do affirmations and script to make the comment? Or just that, did you imagine arguing with me? Right? You imagine the argument.
Yeah, I've used that too. I use that too. Where someone's like, well, this is what the coach said. And I'm like, all right, if it's working for you, clearly it's not if you're posting memes about the universe and cats with their legs open, but mazel tov. That gets me too. The universe is providing. It's like, okay.
Cool. Sure it is. Yep, the menu makes the meal. Radio.
As someone that used to work in the restaurant industry, that's hilarious. Good times.
Yeah.
But turn page, that was what I embodied today, that particular lesson, as opposed to expecting the same thing with my furry guy. You know, I'm like, no, we're going to rewrite this. We're going to rewrite this page. We're going to rewrite this chapter. Done and done. So yeah, it's been a good time, a good journey, a good adventure. And I have to say, I'm already enjoying conversations with family members, experiencing you, devouring your information. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, it's funny when different people show up, like, there's just different people in the group where, like, Jen's one of them, Max is another. And it's like when they show up, they really stand out to me. And I'm not saying this makes them better than or worse than anyone. Yeah. But it's like, I remember when you showed up. And it's always one of those things I always tell people, and this is so important to me. Show up. Because if you don't post, how the hell do you expect anyone to imagine lovingly for you? I can remember you popping into the group and so on. And it was real early on where it's like we dove into a real fun show with you. And it was like, here's an opportunity to imagine lovingly. And my universal imagining lovingly is always then getting this. Just getting your excitement, getting your enthusiasm, celebrating your wins with you, that kind of thing. And that to me is probably the coolest thing because it's like, rightio. I can remember we were on the show, yakking around, so on and so forth. And it's like, and here we are. Here we are. It's just the little tiny bits. I got a dog coming. Come on, dog. Come up and say hi. Come here. You can come on. Come on.
Oh, hey, buddy.
All right. Very good. I'll let him down. We'll see if he slides out. God, he got out the other night and he didn't come in till the middle of the night.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. He's got this thing about airplanes. And so, like, he's getting better. He used to sit and bark at him for hours. Now he just watches them. But it's like they'd fly through the air and he'd just sit out there and bark at him, bark at him, bark at him. And so, like, the other night he stayed out till the middle of the night. We tried to get him to come in, but he wouldn't come in. Eventually Victoria drug him in like at 4 a.m. or some godforsaken time. And like, he's been real friendly ever since. Like, hey, Dad, how you doing? Can we hang out, me and you?
That is an experience. That's funny.
That's my dog.
So no, I remember.
Oh, good.
Go ahead, sorry.
How can I give to you today? What?
You already have. It was funny when we discussed doing this because at the beginning, and that was an experience in and of itself because I had made several attempts to do the Triple B course. But I was not in the state of this is happening. It was like, oh yeah, I'll do it. I really want to do it. I hope I'll do it. Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah. Nice.
And I decided, I'm like, this is the last one for the year. I don't know. I don't care how it's happening. I am doing it. And I felt that energy after I submitted that payment and secured my seat. And something again led me to say, hey, I'm really interested. I'm doing this. What can we do to make this happen? And you believed along with me that it was happening. And when it did, it was like, yes. Why have I ever doubted myself? I've I'm living in the experiences of doing this, but from a different place. Now that I know what to do, I think I was maybe 40, 50 days into Manifest and Mastery, and I had just said to another member, I'm going to do both at the same time. And she was like, well, I would suggest doing one first and the other. And I'm like, nope, this is what I'm doing. I don't know how, but I'm doing it. And it happened, and it was so kismet the way that it happened. To do both simultaneously was a boon for me because I just love to learn. I love to experiment. I love to play around. So it was perfect. And then I finished up Manifest and Mastery on Christmas Day, which was like, how cool is this? The birthing and what it actually means, and this is how I end it. How cool. But yeah, it was just, it worked. And I remember when, yes, I begrudgingly, admittingly used to send you the scary, from a place of lack emails. And I'm like, what is he saying? And it was, I wasn't in a space to receive it. And this was something that I just fleetingly, oh, that'd be cool. Wouldn't that be fun if we did that? And put it out of my mind because it would be fun, but it wasn't something that I let consume me and, turn me into a shell of myself. So when you were like, hey, you want to do this? I'm like, yes, 1,000 times yes. So you have given to me in multiple ways, and I appreciate that you had as much faith in me when I didn't have it in myself that I do now, and maybe even more. I appreciate that.
There's that unseen reality right there. You get it?
Right?
Oh, cool.
Why didn't you tell me that growing up as opposed to the other definition of faith? Yeah. Better late than never to learn it, though.
I always revise. I always go back and imagine learning what I've learned earlier. So I just take it back and toss it in. Just let it bless me. Let me bless me in whatever way it's up,
And be the blessing for others. That's been fun too. Just imagining lovingly for friends and family and just anyone really. That's been experienced. And it's also helped when I do feel any sort of creeping doubt, shift it to someone else. You know what I mean? Because when we're focused on our quote unquote problems, someone else could use, that love, that blessing, and you get it back for being the blessing, So it's been, and I don't care. At first, of course, I wouldn't share the episodes or anything like that for fear of being perceived a certain way. And it's like, they already think I'm crazy. Why not own it?
It's shocking to me when so back in the old days, nobody in my family had a clue what I did. And so I was online selling stuff, and they knew me as like teaching martial arts and some Native American stuff, but that was about it. And social media was just taking off, yada, yada, yada. And I'd be sharing some stuff. And when I took off the gloves, my entire life changed. It's like I really got why Neville talks about congratulatory conversations, because it's like there's a constant hidden fear that people have that goes something like, well, if I made $100 an hour, all my friends would hate me because they're all making $10 an hour. Or if I was happily married, I'd lose all my friends because they're all single. And there's these little things that almost nobody's willing to admit, versus what if they were happy for you?
Right.
What if they thought you were goofy, but it didn't matter? They still love you. Now you're goofy, get to really show up. Hey, leave it. What? That's your buddy outside. That's your buddy. But that's the cool thing, because it's sort of like, even like now with Emmett piping up, there was a time where I would have been the guy, if the dog made a noise, the show was ruined. If the dog made the noise, I got to remember to edit this out, or else it's ruined. And it's just fascinating, because when you get beyond all, because I don't want people saying, oh, they're unprofessional. I don't want people saying, oh, he didn't shave. Half the time I could give a shit if I shave. You know what I mean? But it's that really coming to own, you know what? They could be happy for me. What if they were happy for me? And then when Neville gets into that, and this is a lesson that a lot of people don't like. And I love this one. Yeah. If they would be envious, imagine them envious.
Right. Yeah.
People go, that's a negative emotion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some people are going to be negative. I don't care.
And it's not about controlling that. It's about owning and accepting that it's okay to want what you want. It's okay to have what you have. That again, it comes back to the doing violence.
Yeah. There's a reason why. It's funny because if you look at the courses, the first lesson or two of Dream Driven Day, the first week of MM, just notice they set stages. Right in the middle of MM, we've got the Pearl of Great Price. Mm-hmm. Right in the middle of Dream Driven Day, we've got One Greater Than John. God, they're there for a reason, And when you get that, it's just perfect because it's time to stop doing violence.
Exactly. And just accept it. And instead of accepting it and then doing the 2-step dance where it's like, I want this. Oh no, I can't have it because X, Y, and Z. Well, no one's telling you that. I came across someone sharing that in the group. And everyone loves you are in Barbados part of of Abdullah's, when he scolded Neville. But I got gold from someone shifting it again. And that's why I appreciate the groups and all of the programs that I've gotten and, the podcast, because people want to argue and fight and defend their perspective. But what if you just shifted just a little tiny bit? What if you saw something from someone else's perspective? So when the who told you that was discussed, and I was like, holy smackers, who told you that? Because I see people coming all the time, oh, well, this happened, and it's like that story right there, we can all see what you're imagining just from you sharing that story. Who's telling the story? You're telling the story. So if you can tell that story, why can't you just shift a little bit and tell a different story? I don't know if it's because of sports. I'm no professional dancer like Neville was, but it's just, I run, I do other things, Pilates and, the fascia that you shared. Life changer, game changer, especially after running. But again, being open to new perspectives, not shutting down and just accepting, well, this is how it's always been. I have something saved where it says that is the most detrimental phrase ever. This is how it's always been. Really, the only constant in life is change. So who told you that? Who told you that? And so if I feel a little, what a desire, well, who told you can't have that? Who told you this isn't the way that you want it to be? And it's just instant. It's so fun when you take the time to just play with it and be willing to accept and notice you're doing this and you can change it at any time, any point in time, It's been eye-opening and fun, and I appreciate and love how the friendships, and so Australia, it's happening, just so you know. Looking into whether or not they accept pets to come along, because he and I are sort of conjoined at this point thanks to the pandemic, but...
Yeah, pets are a bit sticky. You can't get them in the country without quarantine.
Okay. So then I'll have to look into a month-long vacation. All right, we'll see. Nothing's impossible.
I really do love the who told you were going third class. You went first. It's interesting because whenever who knows what laws will apply to you when you come. It's sort of like my one buddy's all worked up about the end of the world and climate change and all that stuff. And I tell him, I says, you've got no right to try to solve tomorrow's problems with yesterday's technology.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
To attempt that is impossible. On the other hand, if you know, what every innovator on the planet has ever done, people that are the massive game changers, they imagine the change and then they discover the new quote unquote technology or direction to do it in. And that's the fun, because it's like, as soon as you go, right, this is what I've done. I've gone to Barbados first class. Then you get to find out, how does it happen? I don't know. Somebody canceled. Cool. Perfect. It's like, I love the other Barbados story where Neville and his family had to come back. And I almost never talked about that before I put that up on the internet. It's like, you know, then there was the time Neville was stuck in Barbados. Right? Nobody talked about that. It's like, you know, and his brother says, are you a fool? And he's like, well, no. Right? Neville knew. He went, they said, there's no way you can get off the island for 3 months. And it was like the same day, you know, they called him back and said, hey, listen, we got tickets for you and your family. He was, all right, you know, done.
Wasn't he in the middle of his Feel It recession too when they called him, if I recall? How cool is, yeah. And that's, again, I liked what you shared earlier today about time. What if time entertained me instead of worried me? And I'm like, isn't that something? And that was something that I played with. Like, yeah, what if I'm entertained by time instead of seeing it as, you know, a pair of handcuffs that's quote unquote keeping me back?
It's funny because we can take anything and use it as a weapon.
Yes, and anything and use it as and the reverse, you can use it as a tool.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
You can't come to Australia for your dog.
I'm like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I'll swaddle him as a baby and pass him up.
Or you'll come when you have time. I got a buddy, but way before the Louis shit hit. And, he was talking about coming, he said Australia's on his bucket list. And I said, take it off the fucking bucket list. Don't put anything on a bucket list. By the time you get to the bucket list, you don't have knees, right? Probably also don't have money. Yeah, neither one of those is fun. Yeah, take it off the bucket list. Yeah, we make time. Literally, what I love about language is if, you know, that words don't have power, but if you listen, people will tell you, well, I just haven't made any time to do that. That's right. Yeah, go make some time.
Ooh, that's a fun way to put it too. Yeah, because people think making time is something that you have to do violence to. You have to give something up in order to compensate for time. And it's like, well, who told you that? Who told you that there has to be a sacrifice between time and whatever you want to experience? Just like we're waiting. Who says you have to wait? Who told you that? Who told you it's going to take however long? We're doing it to ourselves. And the fear of stepping away from all of that, it's interesting. It's really interesting to have it, especially having been in that state, for lack of a better terminology, for being in that state of believing in waiting, telling the story of waiting, telling the story of lack, telling the story of struggle. And it's like, man, that's no fun.
How many different states are there? I'm going to be, I got a couple things I'm working on. One's a project On Time, which I just haven't taken the time to finish, which is just an absolute hoot in and of itself. And the other one's on game changers. I'm working on a list of 7 game changers. That's the little bits behind the bits kind of things. But I get time is so important because it's one of those things that, like we say, gravity is a constant. And the speed of light is a constant. And this fellow named Rupert Sheldrake did the Forbidden TED Talk, or the banned TED Talk is what they call it now. Because he came out and said, hey, here's all this research that says these constants are not constant. So we might want to things, right? And I love Because as you know, I am not the guy to sit around and talk about metaphysics and parallel universes and all that shit. Because everyone that I talk to that's really into parallel universes, it's like, well, why are you poor in this one? Yeah, why are you miserable in this one? Right? Because I'm rich and happy in another one. Well, how about if we meet up there and talk? Right? Yeah, that might be funner for me. So, but it's funny because if science is willing to disregard the fact that the speed of light fluctuates or gravity fluctuates, what is it that we can sell ourselves out to? Time. Time is not a constant. Time's another thing which is immensely flexible. And it's like, where is it that we can go, right, I've accepted that this is something that I can't influence. How about if I change, this is who I am in regards to time?
Right.
Wow. The only thing I want for you is to have the time of your life. That's it. Discover who you are and how this works. And when you do that, you have the time of your life.
Have some swell adventures, indeed.
So I've got a question for you.
Sure.
What's the biggest game changer with all this for you, Ben?
The biggest game changer?
You can answer this any way you want to, which is so cool.
I want to say the biggest, if I had to choose, was that we're all connected. There is no separation. And I loved how that tied together in the One Ocean lesson from Triple D, as well as I don't remember which number it was, but one of the lessons in Manifest and Mastery. When you covered that was, okay, so I want to modify my answer a little bit.
Cool.
To add a bullet point, the week when we discuss the 5 stages of grief, that was like, because, and I just did an explosive for the audio, because to break it down in that point, to visit every day, anxiety, depression, anger, bargaining, and people don't even realize, because it says the stages of grief, it's been pigeonholed into grief. It's associated only with death. But that's like basically we've been living our lives for people who haven't taken the time to dive deeper, to experience, to experiment, to try, to have adventure. That's what people are living their lives as every day. That was so explosive for me. That week alone was like, how is this not more widespread? It's not just limited to grief. This is what people do. They deny. They avoid. They fall into states. And I've kind of let it go for the most part. But I've also been noticing where other coaches are the whole self-concept thing. And it's like, well, that's kind of like asking for water, but in separate molecules. You can't separate the two. Sure, I can give you some oxygen and some hydrogen. Good luck trying to put it together to make water.
Yeah. Boom.
Your state does not, your state is not, something that you can piecemeal. It's a package deal. Your beliefs, your ideas, your self-concepts, which, let's break down the definition, is how you describe yourself. So for other people to go around and telling others that their self-concept, someone tried to tell me that, well, maybe you don't think you're worthy. And I was like, excuse you? I've never had an issue of worthiness or deservingness or any of that other crap. Like, how are you going to tell me who I think I am? That makes no sense.
You know what I do with that now? Yeah, I pretend that I heard the word wordy. So it's like, oh, I'm not wordy. That's right. My self-wordiness. No. Self-worth. Yeah, self-words. Yeah. But what happens when you drop all that? I'm worthy, I'm not worthy. I'm worthy, I'm not worthy. Yeah, nah, you can drop it all. You can just dive in. You can just make your splash. You can just look at you. You're radiant. And
Thank you.
And you can do that. Why not just do that? Give life to that day. Give life to that.
Yeah, and again, the living from, being able to enjoy, this was something that we've already enjoyed in our imagination, and now we're giving life to it in reality, the only one that is, that we're aware of. It's fun, and as opposed to, and I dropped, that was another thing for me too, living from the wish fulfilled, because everybody, again, is out there butchering the teachings and talking about the desire. So I forgot which podcast you mentioned it, but you were saying, like, if you're thinking about driving the car, of course you're going to be amped up and you're going to feel anxious and you're going to look around and wonder and look for signs and all that nonsense. But if you have the car, click, click, I do my remote and I hear my car is locked, I know I have the car. I don't need to be anxious about it or look or do any of that stuff. It's so much fun. And I've honestly mentally dropped. Like I said, I feel like I've added years to my life now as opposed to taking them away from being in the previous states of worry and obsession and all the other, nonsensical, energy, time-consuming states. I don't have to worry about something. Like, sometimes I wonder, and it was a question I written down to ask you, and you actually ended up answering it. So it was like, oh my God, how funny is that? Is there something wrong with, visiting the same desire in my imagination? But it's kind of like if I buy a pair of jeans, and I put them on, if they fit, great. They're not going to be comfortable the first time, but it's okay to kind of break them in. So I just play with that. It's like if I feel called to it, I'm going to explore it in my imagination. Again, there's no one telling me that I can't do it.
I imagine that Victoria's yum. And when I'm cooking, I end up sampling the food. And it's such a simple metaphor. And it's so true, because it's like, if you imagined up the yum while you're cooking, it's like, ooh, let me give that a taste. Oh, it needs a little more oregano. Oh, let me add a little bit of lemon juice. Yeah, there's the thing. From what I can tell, it's called being alive. and it's like, if you're imagining, like, wiggling into something, sometimes you gotta wiggle. And sometimes once you've wiggled into it, you still want to wiggle into it. Why not?
Right.
Something to do. I imagine this had a great time more than once.
Yeah, same. I did too. How cool is that? That's awesome.
And the cool thing is, I know you get this. It wasn't to make it fun. It was because I knew it was. I knew that it has been. There's that knowingness versus, I better imagine it was fun. Oh, I better imagine it was fun. Too hard. I'm going to imagine it was taller. That's smaller. That's easier. Yeah, I don't want a Doberman. I'll settle for a hamster because hamsters are small. It's crazy.
I don't that either. It's like, again, why do violence? Who is telling you that you have to start small? What if you don't even want some of the small things that they're advising you to start with too? So you have something that you don't really want, but you just got it to prove that you could. That makes no sense. I wanted a home. I got the exact home I wanted. Done deal.
Nice.
You've been a blessing to me, and I appreciate it. I've had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. I find myself skipping now. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on? Nope, I'm just going to skip. Let's do this. Let's have fun. And it's been fun. I'm sure I don't even care on the dog walking trails, but my dog, he's kind of looking back at me as he runs ahead with his stick, and I'm behind him skipping along, singing or whatever I feel like doing, because I feel like doing it, as opposed to this is the box that I've been put in, or I believe that I've been put in.
Yeah, no box for you.
No. None at all. I appreciate that.
I want to thank you for,
Thanks.
you know what? You imagined something that set all this in motion.
I did. I really did. I did. And I love when you write back too, when I share it with you, and that's something I imagined too. That's been fun.
It's been delightful.
Oh, it has been so much. I just love going back and getting so much gold each time. Each time is something different. It's like a surprise.
Thank you, Kdrea.
Thank you, 20. Give my love to Victoria and to Bruce since he didn't make an appearance.
I will. Emmett's here still laying on my legs. He hasn't fallen through yet. Back in the old days, I'll tell you the quick story, then I'll roll. So way back in the old days, I had this crazy idea that I wanted to do a lot of coaching. I also had this crazy idea that I wanted a puppy, and the two worlds collided. And so I did calls like 6 hours a day, sometimes 8 hours a day, 45-minute calls. And the whole idea was Emmett would lay exactly where he is now. And he was just this little freaking pup. And so I would talk for 45 minutes, hang up, and would go on routine patrol. And he'd take a pee or two, and then it would get in here and I'd basically strap back up, sit myself in the chair, get everything lined up. He'd hop up and lay right here. And this is such a gift to me because I get to share, because I don't do many calls anymore. But I get to share this lovely time with you. I get to celebrate being so a loving teacher, loving puppy dad. And now I get to go to my husband and find Victoria and tell her that you said hello and smiles today. So
and tell her let me goodies she wants when I visit.
Can't wait.
Another adventure, another year of fun. I'm excited.
Me too.
Thank you, Tony. It's been a pleasure.
Have a lovely day.
You too. Enjoy. Thank you.
Wow.